Isn't that an impressive sound? It's a sound no one has ever heard before. It's the sound of 35,000 nurses. That's the official police department figure. 35,000 nurses who are gathered together in protest. And that has never happened before. Distance was no barrier. They came from all corners of the country.
Ohio! Louisville, Kentucky.
I'm from Stanford, California.
University of Iowa, Iowa City.
We're from Portland, Maine.
New Jersey. Irvington, New Jersey.
That's right. Orlando, Florida.
Delaware Valley Medical Center in Pennsylvania.
Union, South Carolina.
I'm here with the New York State Nurses Association.
Every patient deserves a nurse.
Where are you from?
I'm from Maryland.
Ohio! Chicago!
Ridley Park, Pennsylvania.
In West Virginia!
What unified these nurses to stage a protest on this huge scale is the vision, energy, and leadership of one staff nurse, Laura Gasparis Vonfrolio of Staten Island, New York. She's publisher of Revolution, the Journal of Nurse Empowerment. It's the only journal for staff nurses. Laura felt that the national professional nursing organizations were not doing enough to counter the massive layoffs of staff nurses. So she conceived of this demonstration and brought together the nursing unions and state nursing organizations who arranged travel and housing for their members.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being a part of nursing history. Today, we are taking our first small step together, for we have been quiet too long. It is time for registered nurses to speak out. It is time to publicly expose the corporate greed that removes RNs from the bedsides of sick patients. It is time to publicly expose those unsafe patient conditions. Your presence today shows our profession's willingness to advocate for our patients. Your presence here today shows our commitment to safe patient care. But in order to advocate for our patients, we're going to need legislation. We're going to need legislation that establishes federal and state mandates for safe nurse-patient ratios. We're going to need legislation that establishes federal and state mandates that will assure patients that they will not be the victims of inadequate nurse-patient ratios. We want Congress to amend the Supreme Court decision of May 1994 that Supreme Court decision that stripped federal labor law protection from this nation's nurses. We want legal protection for those nurses who speak out against dangerous conditions in hospitals. We want the Nurse Practice Act to ensure penalties and removal of license from those nursing administrators who attempt to force and coerce registered nurses against their professional judgment to undertake unsafe patient assignments. For it is the nurse, the staff nurse, who is the patient advocate. It is the staff nurse is the only patient advocate and must be protected to do so. Your presence here today will help Revolution, the Journal of Nurse Empowerment, and the various nursing associations and nursing unions help us all to accomplish this. As we march down Pennsylvania Avenue, 200 nurse delegates are now meeting in the Capitol with senators and congresspeople to apprise them of our situation. Let us send a message to the American people: we care.
There's good news and there's bad news. The good news is we've got a great and wonderful history, and the bad news is we're in for the fight of our lives. But we can win this. As a public health official, I am very worried about what I see. And as a nurse, I am angry. I'm angry as I've ever been. I am angry with the hospitals who are doing this to patients and doing this to nurses. I am angry with the state association who hold themselves out as your voice and they speak in whispers. I'm angry with nurses who hold positions and claim to be politically sophisticated and they settle for the crumbs from the political table. That's over. Their perception of political action is getting their pictures taken with elected officials and getting it published in pathetic newsletters, and that's wrong! If your state association is not serving you and your needs, find another way.
There were other speakers, and we'll bring them to you while the marchers are making their way along Pennsylvania Avenue, which is often called Main Street, USA. They formed up where the avenue begins, at the foot of Capitol Hill.
Onward, let's go!
With Laura is her husband, Charles. He's a doctor, an anesthesiologist.
We're going to pause here.
All we are saying
Slow it down here.
is take patient care.
It's time. It is time. It is overtime that nurses have started to come together as professionals and as agitators and as revolutionaries. It is time not just to march in the nation's capital. It is time to march on every state capital. It is time that you say to every politician, and they can be Republican or Democrat, if they are not going to be for you as the major health care giver in America, then they can forget your vote in any primary in November.
Nurses united! We cannot be divided! Nurses united! Nurses united! We'll never be
The 600,000 members of the Communications Workers of America are proud to stand with registered nurses and all professional healthcare workers in the fight to protect quality healthcare in our nation. Just last week, I visited our members who work at Buffalo General and Mercy hospitals and other healthcare facilities in upstate New York. Nurses represented by CWA at Buffalo General have been in contract talks for several weeks. We are fighting concession demands from management. Management not only wants to cut salaries, they want to drastically change working conditions and cut the jobs of workers who directly deliver health care to the patient. We have a message for Buffalo General and for every hospital that follows a similar course. Hell no, we will not sacrifice our careers, our commitment to patient care, our dedication to health care on the altar of competition.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Today, the healthcare industry teeters on moral bankruptcy. We demand real healthcare reform, not an inhumane quest by the healthcare industry to do less and earn more. We demand new training for all healthcare workers to meet the changing patient load. We demand a voice for healthcare workers, the frontline experts in restructuring this industry. We demand preservation of the unique and vital role played by RNs as well as LPNs. And we demand a safe and decent work life for all nurses.
What do we want?
Quality care!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Quality care!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
I want to especially thank the state nurses associations that are represented today, more than 25, who have brought in more than 10,000 members for today's march. Thank you all for coming. We nurses today are here to blow the whistle on those in the healthcare industry who prefer profits over people, administrative bonuses over healing.
This rally is an impressive first step. We must organize ourselves in every way. Firstly, at our workplace, through unionization. The only way we're going to put a stop to the attacks on our profession if large numbers of nurses are organized. We must get involved with other nursing organizations, other unions outside of our hospitals. Just like here, our voices are louder if heard together.
I view this gathering with a sense of history. And I come here as the United States Senator from the state of Minnesota to thank you, nurses, because you practice what we preach. You provide humane, dignified health care for citizens in the United States of America.
It is important today and tomorrow and next week and through the course of this session and through the course of our lives that we keep caring in health care, and that we do so today by caring for those people upon whom our health care delivery system depends, the nurses of this country. Thank you for being here. We're with you. Wake up, America!
At this point, we feel we have a responsibility to introduce the often overlooked heroes of any march, the foundations without whose contribution and support no parade could take place. But one pair of feet was just too small to go the full distance.
Beings and a commitment of full support from Physicians for a National Health Program. We understand fully that the assault on the professional standards of nurses is an attack on all of us. Indeed, the same process also is undermining the cherished standards and ethics of the medical profession. So I must ask, AMA, where are you, American Medical Association?
Nurses in 1199, I think that we have come pretty far. We have professional input in terms of staffing and duties. We have job guarantees and no layoff. We have job security protections. We have achieved a lot, and we're saying we ain't going back. But in order to make this movement, we need to get organized. That's why in San Francisco, on August 18, 19, and 20 of this year, the North American Healthcare Network with the California Nurses Association and the Canadian National Federation of Nurses will come together to map our future strategies. Let's get organized.
The protesters are now in front of the White House. Washington political observers say that since the president's mother was a nurse, Mr. and Mrs. Clinton might just have invited a delegation of marchers into the executive mansion for a talk. On this day, however, Mrs. Clinton was in the Far East and the president was in Haiti. At the end of this magnificent demonstration of staff-nurse unity and patient advocacy, we asked the nurse who started it all to sum up the day.
Sum up the day. I have never in my entire life seen so many nurses so empowered. I speak to 65,000 nurses a year, and all the time they're whining, we're complaining, we feel victimized. And today they walked tall, they held their head up high, and they saw what power there is in numbers.
Today, March 31st, 1995, will stand as a shining moment in nursing's history, as a shining moment in the history of the nursing revolution. Let the word go out to the American public that we have just begun.